Assalamualaikum and a very good evening. Thank you very much, my dear audience, my dear respective speakers. We have here three so-called renowned advocates of the Project Management Institute, PMI Malaysia chapter. We have here two from UKM, which is we have here Dr. Abang Anwar Ihsan and Dr. Kim Xiong Xiao. Welcome. Both are from the IMEN. So anybody maybe knows our research fellow from Institute of Microengineering and Nanoelectronics. But last but not least, we have here Mr. Krishnan, who is the what we call it past president of the Project Management Institute Malaysia chapter. So for tonight's session, as normally, usual, we do have topics. Thank you very much. I saw here participant is growing. Most of them are from the industry. Thank you very much. Dr. Rosli Rajikan is around. I think Siti Aisyah, my students from Mampu, PMP certified. Dr. Yusno Rizam, a few others that really eager to know what is the topic about the project management, managing a project, maybe managing a research, managing administration, whatsoever in the university. So you do have the so-called expert here that you can ask questions later within this 1 hour. How we can move forward. Probably at the end to set up the so-called students association promoting the so-called what we call it our PMI student chapter in the university. Okay, as mentioned earlier, this is like a rotation. Some questions, the so-called situations, the so-called situations at the moment we are managing the so-called COVID-19, how actually we would like to move forward on that. Okay, some questions to the floor lah. Maybe after this we can open. Okay, Dr. Anwar. Okay, Dr. Abang Anwar Ihsan is a research fellow. Is a research fellow basically, and I have one question. First question to you. What is the background of the topic? Because before this, we are throwing some ideas, and then you attend our class and our lecture or maybe our webinar. Then what is actually about the topic can come about? Okay, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Nohizam. Assalamualaikum and good evening, everybody. Okay, why this topic? Probably you might ask, why project management practice in the university? Okay, project management is not something new. I mean, for the project managers in the industry, it's well known lah. It's the practice that have been used for so long. Okay, but in the university, that's a question mark. Okay, let me start by just telling a bit of story lah, possible. Okay. In 2006, I was basically appointed as a lecturer. Okay? In 2006, 15 years ago lah. Okay, and 2 years later, I got my first project. It was FRGS lah. I think at that time it was quite easy to get FRGS, even though I didn't have my PhD at the time, but I got my FRGS because it was easier compared to today lah. It's quite competitive. Okay. Thinking about that, if somebody were to ask me, how do I manage my project at that time? Okay, if you, Dr. Nohizam, ask me, how do I manage my project at that time? I would say I don't know my answer.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a lecturer, but I would say I don't know how to manage my project. But I was appointed as a project leader. Okay. Okay. Fast forward to 2015. Okay. I was actually attending a project management class in UPM lah. Okay, it was one of the courses I need to take for my master. So at that point of time, I was thinking that I was basically leading projects. I was a project leader in academic research project, but I found that what project management practice do I use actually to manage my project? Okay, and I was thinking whether I can actually adopt a best practice, project management practice for research project at that time. Okay. All right. That was some of the question in my mind. Okay, and then fast forward to 2019. I was also in a class, research methodology class in OUM. I was taking my master in project management in OUM that time. One of the lecturer asked me, okay, he said, Abang Anwar, what topic do you want to actually conduct for your master project? I think at that point of time, I was thinking I want to study project management practice. I said in university. I said because at that time I said nobody was actually looking at that area. So I want to know what project management practice is being used by academics. That was the big question at that time. Okay. So that is basically the historical facts that I would say how this topic came about, right? I think I'll stop there and we'll continue with the second part after this.
Okay, that is the initial part of our story tonight.
Yeah,
how we
a little bit story. Yeah,
because people will say a lecturer, a project manager, how to handle project in the class and everything. Okay, maybe for that question to continue with that, now we would like to have Dr. Xiao. Maybe you can continue with what type of project management practice that you're aware, standard methodology, or does those standard methodology principles can be implemented in the university environment? Okay, over to you, please. Thank you.
Okay, I think the usual thing is when I do project management is just the waterfall techniques. Yeah, like elaborating the requirements and all those things. But I think in the last few years, nowadays people are more talking about agile project management.
Agile.
Agile, which is more flexible and which I think is more suitable for research, because a lot of time that when we plan out our research, things changes, and it's quite fluid and therefore we have to adapt to the but still within the scopes of what we promise to the grant and those things, but the flexibility should be there to achieve the objective of the research grants. I think another aspect that we seldom talk about project management practices in the university is those practices in the technology transfer office, right?
Okay, TTO.
Yeah, the TTO, right? We have a TTO in UCAM. Actually, my background, I was actually from a TTO. My first job after when I got my PhD, I worked in a technology transfer office in Singapore. I was with the A-Star Research Institute Technology Transfer Office.
I see.
So at that time, and there was a place actually I went to study my PMP. It was actually my technology transfer office who actually sent me to study project management, so that we manage the projects for the technology transfer office better. So I mean, fast forward after that, I came back to Malaysia after that, and then I was working in on semiconductor, on semiconductor as one of the research engineer there. So and when you are research engineer and also development, you also run a lot of those projects. So I think the practices in general are quite similar regardless of the industries. I mean, you still talk about managing the cost, the timing, and the scopes. So these three things is universal. Regardless of environment, I think it's very important that we do these three things. I mean, even in all this monitoring in our FRGS or whatever, they always look at these three issues of the cost, scopes, and also the time. So those are in general practices that I see which is common in whether it's in universities or technology transfer office or also whether it's in the industries. So that's
Okay. Okay, thanks a lot. At least we aware. Maybe later you can elaborate the so-called iron triangle, maybe how to balance juggling the resources, the time and everything. And now you mentioned about agile approach. Prior to that, we are maybe practicing about the waterfall. And most of us, I think the so-called, like me, myself, also, we are aware of waterfall rather than agile. Even in UKM also, we do have this concept, when our new Vice Chancellor mentioned about the so-called agile or tangkas in Malay. We have one of them. Okay. Okay, finally, we have our past president of PMI Malaysia chapter, who's going to give a little, maybe a brief ideas on the so-called PMI Malaysia chapter, the history, kind of that. Okay, over to you, sir.
So I thank you for a start. Thank you so much. Salam sejahtera, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. I got involved with PMI in 2011, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
So very recently, I got involved. So I got involved with PMI in 2011. So it's about, it's a little over 10 years now. And that was a time when I was actually working for Dell. So this may come across as a little bit of a surprise. I'm actually an accountant by training.
Oh.
So this one will surprise a lot of people. But it's only afterwards that I realized quite a few things. For a start, when I went to university, I went to a small university in the UK. And one of the subjects that I did as part of my accountancy studies was something called operations management. I don't know whether anyone does something like that here, but there was a lot of what I would call scheduling, not so much Gantt charts, but certainly PERT and critical path and those networking diagrams, those sorts of things. So those of you who do scheduling and stuff like that from a project management perspective will be familiar with this. Those of you who come from an engineering background will be familiar with this. And strangely enough, I happen to excel at that particular subject. I actually enjoyed that subject a lot. But that was 1981, 1982. So it's a long time ago. And I did not realize how it was going to catch up with me further on in my not only career but in my life. When I started work in audit.
Okay.
I worked for a small company called Ernst & Young, or EY as it's called now, and after doing the project management professional boot camp, those of you who are PM will be familiar with this as a boot camp that we attend 35 hours. The first lesson that they taught us is the definition of a project. So this one I remember very, very clearly because there's three parts to it. There's defined start, there's the defined finish, and there's always a unique outcome, unique product, unique solution. It's always unique. And at that point in time, I said, my goodness, I've been doing projects ever since I started working. Now that's just the high level background. Today, I look upon project management as being a life skill, because if you reflect on your own personal development, you'll probably turn around and say, our mothers, and I certainly use this phrase often to describe project management to people that I'm speaking to, that our mothers are perhaps the greatest project managers we shall know. Why do I say that? Because our mothers may have gone to school, they may have not have gone to school, may not have gone to work. And you're saying, hang on, what are you talking about? My mother is not educated, she didn't work. But the reality is that our mothers did a lot of things in the background. So if you reflect, when we graduated from school, for example, there would have been a kanduri, some sort of celebration. Now, who was organizing that? It certainly was not our fathers. our fathers were what I would call MIA, but it was our mothers who did the things in the background. When there's that balik kampung arrangement, it's probably the mother making all the arrangements, who to visit, when to visit, what time to leave, and so on and so on and so on. The fathers, at best, maybe they're driving the car, maybe they're putting up the funds to put together whatever project it is. But a balik kampung is a project, okay? When do we leave? When do we come back? It's a project. So today I look upon it very much as a life skill, but taking it a step further. Like many of you, I went on to do a master's after my first degree. And as part of my master's, and this was in Edinburgh, this was an MBA as opposed to a master's in engineering or something like that. We had to do something called, you would call it a thesis, I suppose. And as part of that, there was some research inside that. Someone mentioned research methodology. So you need to study research methodology in order to put your dissertation, in my case it was a dissertation or thesis, together. Now, you're given plenty of lead time. Okay? You're given 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. You're in advance. You've got this thing to do. You need to dream up the subject, and then you need to do the research. Now, if you're a good student, you would already start planning right at the word go that someone tells you. And for me, I look upon project management as being extremely important for the student population. And instinctively, and I was not a good student. I'm going to share that with you right now. I was not a good student. I didn't come away with a first-class honors degree or something clever like that. I came across with what I would call a bare pass. In fact, my first degree was a 2-2. My MBA, there was no so-called recognition that this was the best dissertation or something clever like that. I passed, but that was about it. But I do know that I was rushing right at the last minute. And so many students are probably like me. We are given the assignment a month ahead of our schedule. And today, learning is very much assignment-based. And I would argue it's project-based. Okay, you're given an assignment, you're grouped together, 5-6 people together, and you're expected to deliver something, let's just say on the 1st of August. Now, most students will wait till the 31st of July and say, alamak, tomorrow is the assignment. And they will scramble and do whatever it is that they do, and they'll deliver a solution, but it's what I would call a bare pass. So a bit like me, bad student, okay? But a good student or a good group of students would start to exercise the soft skills, the leadership skills, the planning skills upfront. Because a month ago, I knew, on the 1st of July, I knew I had this assignment. So immediately after the assignment is given out, we get together. Today, it's a virtual call. But if it was normal times or pre-pandemic times, we would have got together and had a te tare or whatever it is and discuss whatever it is. So delegate out, share out the assignment and do it iteratively. So part of Agile is this iterative thing. So you might break it up and say, you look at A, B, C, D, E, for example, break it up 1, 1, 1, 1, and you work together as a team and you eventually come up with a solution. There will be 1 or 2 students who don't do their part, but the leaders in the group will bring along the weaker members. And the net result is everyone learns something from it. Okay, through that whole experience, they learn something from it, and they probably will come out with a good grade. Now, this was very instinctive that I was thinking this until in 2019, we had the chairman of PMI worldwide visit us at a symposium in Penang, and I shared with him, his name is Randy Black, I shared with him, I said, this is what I think. And he says, you know, Krishnan, you're absolutely right. There's empirical evidence, okay? In other words, they've done research and they've proven that students who have some knowledge and background in project management, you don't have to have a certificate, would perform 30% better than a student without. So now it's not just got application in the 1 month assignment. It's also got application in the research area. And if I take it a step further, it's got application in the area of what I call scarce resources. So some of you, I've not done a funded research, but I imagine Dr. Anwar, Dr. Nurizam, and Dr. Siao, and probably other doctors in this core have actually done funded research. Now, in order to do that funded research, you needed to find funding. This is a scarce resource. Huh? So Dr. Siao talked about the triple constraint: time, money, and the scope of work. So in a university research setting, your assignment or your piece of research is your scope of work. You have your 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is your time. But then there is this thing called money. And the two things that are scarce for all of us is time and money. And we often are challenged how to manage these two scarce resources. So project management is very much about how do you manage your scarce resources and get the outcome that you desire. So this is how I look upon the whole thing. I hope that's given you some background as to why I'm very, very interested in this particular area. And I've actually spent a lot of time trying to drive this idea initially to convert universities into PMI GACs, or Global Accreditation Centers, recognized degrees. That's one. And more importantly, to actually have some presence at the universities and ideally get students, and those students that are on this core, think about doing CAPM, because that will help you to stand out when you go out for the job interviews, or even the internships for that matter, to actually secure your internship or your first job or first gig. This will help you stand out many times more than just going there. I got first class degree in engineering or whatever it is that you've done, because that's not enough today. And if it's a projectized environment, you'll almost immediately get instant recognition that you know something about project management, and it's easier for you to transition into the job. So this is why I'm interested in this, and this is actually courtesy of Dr. Siao to begin with. He invited me to do 2 or 3 seminars in the last 12 months. So we've been talking. And then I know you, Dr. Nurizam from a long time ago.
Very long time.
I might add, because he was talking about let's do some CAPM workshops some years ago. And Dr. Abang, I have to give recognition to, because in the last AGM before I stepped down, which was in June, he asked some questions about how do we do something at the universities. So I'm very excited to do something to give back to academia, because I owe everything that I have to academia. If there was no universities that would have taken me in to begin with, and bear in mind I was a bad student, I failed A levels twice. So I owe it to academia and everyone who's going through academia the benefit of actually using that knowledge and perspective that I actually have on things.
Okay, thanks a lot. Wonderful for Mr. Krishnan. 30%, remember, if you know how to complete, that is already a project manager. Okay.
I always say, why settle for a 3.0 GPA when you can get a 3.9 GPA?
Okay.
Stretch, but it's that's the idea behind it.
Yes. Okay, we come back to Dr. Abang Anwar. Recently, we have been talking about maybe your research last year. Your email to me. You have conducted a study among the lecturers, among the researchers on their project management practices in UKM. Can you share with us the results, the outputs from your research? Okay, please, over to you, Dr. Abang.
Okay, thank you. Okay, basically in 2019, I proposed to conduct a study actually in UKM.
Okay.
Actually, it was that my objective was to get data from all the 5 research universities, because my thought was all these universities are champions in research.
Okay.
They have all the best project managers, like you can say project leaders, because they are leading projects in Malaysia. So my thought was I was trying to look whether I can conduct a study among these research universities to find out what are the project management practice among the academics. Okay, so it was in 2019 Okay.
Okay.
And I actually did that study in 2020, in February 2020, yeah. Early last year. Unfortunately, I only got data for 2 universities. Because the other 3 universities, they did not really respond to my request to conduct that university, to conduct that study. Okay. Okay. What was the reason for the study actually? Okay. Basically, if you look at research university, they're actually conducting research. Basically, they're actually conducting academic research project. So by definition, research project is unique and it's temporary. Okay, as Mr. Krishnan said, project is unique and it's temporary. So regardless of the type of project, regardless of industry, the same project management practice is also applied to academic research project. Definitely, you can avoid it.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So that's why the reason that I want to know whether what practices do academics use to manage their project. Okay. I found
any
out that
principles? Any
okay. you want to know the result, the findings?
The results, yeah.
Okay. Okay. I actually compiled the result. I do the analysis for the data that I got, and I presented it. I presented to our RMC in UKM in October last year. Okay, and I presented to them my findings on that study. Okay, and one of the results that I obtained was that about more than 60% of our academics they do not know any type of project management practice.
Oh, I see.
More than 60%. They don't know. They don't have any idea what is project management. Basically, if you want to put it that way, okay, what is project management? Less than 40%, they basically know lah. If like Dr. Kim and me, we are familiar with project management, but majority of them they do not know. Okay? And also, when I asked the lecturer what type of practices are they using to manage the project, okay, you will be surprised.
The answers?
Okay, about 50% basically managing their project based on experience.
Experience.
Their own experience. Okay, probably they have managing their project based on their research project last time. Okay, academic research project, PhD project, master project. Those experiences. Okay, a small amount of academics they are actually using ad hoc method, and a small percentage are actually trial and error method to manage project. So you'll be surprised with the result that I obtained.
Okay.
So that is the reason I think we need to understand the practices that are being used to manage projects, academic project. Okay. Beside those questions, I also actually try to find out what factors are actually contributing to the successful completion of projects. Okay. Even though most lecturers they are managing their projects without using any project management practice, but basically most of us know that we have to deliver something. We have to manage something lah. We need to manage our resources. We need to manage our budget. We need to manage our schedule. Those things are common and understood by academics, even though they don't have any idea where to put this in terms of the project management body of knowledge lah. Okay. So I asked the question, what are the factors that actually contribute to the successful completion of projects in university? Okay, there are many factors, but I can say that the top 5 factors. Okay, I list them down here. Number 1 factor is leadership.
Leadership, yeah, okay.
Leadership. That is the number 1 factor that actually contribute to the successful completion of a project. You'll be surprised. Leadership. They said leadership. Okay. Second is managing change.
Managing change management. Okay.
Change management. Yeah.
All right.
So you need to know change actually, because as Dr. Kim said, research project is very fluid. You need to actually adapt hybrid, I think. Hybrid project management. Not just waterfall, but agile plus waterfall. Yeah.
Yeah. Hybrid.
Because it keeps changing. I think scope is basically keep changing lah. Your budget and your schedule probably doesn't change very much. The scope will change a lot. So you need to know how to manage your project, especially.
Okay.
The third one is scope.
Scope.
Scope is they said is scope.
Uh-huh.
Okay? And then the fourth one is schedule. How to manage the schedule, the timeline of the project.
Uh-huh.
And the last one, which number 5, is communication.
Communication.
I think communication is important because project manager, they spend more than 90%. 90% to communicate. I know that because right now I'm managing a project. Like every day I have to communicate, either through email or through meeting like this. Is communicating, is engaging with a stakeholder, with the sponsor, with your team members. So these are the 5, I think, factors that academics have put as the topmost factors that affect the successful completion of a project.
I see.
I have other factors, but I didn't put it here lah. Actually, there were 23 factors involved. Yeah, a lot. But they are grouped into you would say in process group lah, certain process group. But here I list the top 5 of the factors.
Okay.
So that was the study lah. The result of the study that I can share with you. There are some other things that I can share, but probably not in this webinar. If you want to know more on the result, All right.
Sure. Thanks a lot,
right.
Dr. Abang.
Okay.
Okay. Now the next question to Dr. Sia. When we see that 5 factors, what do you think, Dr. Sia? What the benefits of adopting the project management, maybe best practices, maybe based on your experience in Singapore, in UKM, just to maybe mitigate some issues or hindrance of that project? Over to you. The benefits of adopting, please.
I think if you have this kind of practices, I think you'll be able to manage the risk better. I think the one thing that the project risk management, a lot of time we don't spend enough time talking about the risk, right? Like but nowadays, even in our reporting for applications of research grants, there'll be a column asking us about risk.
Recent. Very good. Okay.
They ask us about the risk, but I think the risk mentioned there is quite it's not that detailed. I mean, it's I think the person who giving the grant just trusts that the project manager or the researcher know what to do. But a lot of time is it can be quite elaborate if you don't anticipate a lot of things, and a lot of time also because assumptions that we make are not true. Right? There will be constraints and making assumptions on all those things, and I think it's best. This is best elaborated by our current situation now in the COVID.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, there is. I think nobody anticipate that we will be locked down for so long, and how we're going to manage all the scopes and the budget in this kind of scenario when we can't go to the lab, and then we still we can drag on some of the schedule, but I think the money part, you see, we still have to pay our students and so that's an issue now, right? Because the money is used up and we're still in a lockdown mode. You see. So some of the things that I should highlight is probably the risk management part should be strengthened further, and if the all these researchers can anticipate it, I think we can handle the things better. Yeah, I think.
Okay, I think to you, Dr. Kim, it's about the risk management, how to mitigate the risk in the scenario during this COVID-19 issue situation, even the universities as well. Okay, in what we call it, continuation to that, my next question to Mr. Krishnan, you mentioned about maybe you have the so-called ideas on how maybe we can set up students association, a kind of local chapters of PMI in maybe in UKM, for example, we have here. So what do you think of that, Mr. Krishnan, the roles or support from maybe PMI Malaysia? Let's say like 3 of us or with the others here today, we're going to set up maybe just an initial to have this PMI associate for students in UKM? Okay, over to you, sir.
So I don't see this as a big issue per se. I think a lot of it's got to do with interest primarily from the student body. Okay, it's primarily the student body. If you've got students who are ideally doing project management, or alternatively doing a degree, let's just say an engineering degree, for example, and I know within the engineering degree there is some elements of project management. These are probably the ideal groups of students who could actually say, we want to set up a student association, or we want to set up a student society, because you've got lots of societies within the university. It could be a batik society. So someone is interested in batik, has set up a batik society. Okay? So why not project management, or why not chemical engineering, or why not, I don't know, an environmental society or something, or sustainability society, or whatever it is. So it's no different. It's project management. Here are a couple of things that I'd like to just quickly share. In terms of membership, PMI has 3 types of membership. One is individual, 3 types. Okay, the first type is what they call individual membership. So that would be for people who are actually working. So the professors amongst us would be individual members, and for that the subscription is $129 a year. Then there is something called retirement subscription. So someone who's retired, okay, and no longer working, but they still want to remain associated with PMI. There's that one. But there's a third one which is called student membership. And student membership it's very, very interesting, because the rate that PMI asks a student to pay is $32, something like 130 ringgit, 140 ringgit, something like that. Okay. So it's not a lot of money per se, and this is an annual fee. When I was president of PMI Malaysia chapter, to begin with, we had another fee for chapter members. The chapter members typically would pay $20, or about 85 ringgit as subscription each year. So realizing that the students was one community that was, shall we say, overlooked or even neglected, and there was provision for us to actually charge a different fee for students, we as a council at the time agreed to waive the fee for student members. So in essence, to support the student body, we charge 0 for it. So you just become a member under PMI, you get in under this FOC framework and become a chapter member automatically. Now, I'm not trying to sell membership at this moment in time. I think membership's probably more important when you get into, I want a career in project management, I want to do the certifications and that sort of thing. But I just want to give that as some background, that there is provision for student members, that's one. And number 2, PMI Malaysia chapter, which is local, is free of charge. So this is an important consideration. Now, to bring, let's just say it's UKM Project Management Society, I'm just making this up as we go. Want to be recognized by PMI Malaysia chapter, all that we need to do, and we can use Dr. Abang Anwar as your Trojan horse, if I can call it that, and he approaches the PMI Malaysia chapter board and says, look, I want to create a society here, I want to be recognized by PMI Malaysia chapter. That's possible. Now, there's a yet another alternative, and that is to become a branch of PMI Malaysia chapter. But I would argue that to become a branch, you'd probably need to have some sort of critical mass. And let me just give you some background to chapters and branches as well, so that everyone understands what we're talking about. PMI is the mother organization. The Project Management Institute is the mother organization. It's based in the United States. They operate locally, and in our case, for discussion purposes, Malaysia, through chapters. Now, in Malaysia, we have what's called a country chapter. In places like in Australia and in India, they have city or state chapters. So, for example, in Australia, they have PMI Sydney. In India, they have PMI Chennai. Okay, just using those as examples. And it's simply because of how things evolved at that point in time. I think today PMI is probably more thinking along the lines of how do we create more country chapters, and how do we create branches within those countries. And if I use a bad example, I can use Pakistan as an example. They've got 3 chapters in Pakistan, in Lahore, in Islamabad, and Karachi. Okay, and each of these chapters have got like 130, 150 members. They're small chapters. In Malaysia, by comparison, we have closer to 1,300, 1,400 members. And that's just the members of the chapter. Okay. Now, in Malaysia, we have 2 branches, and these were set up because of what happened to me in 2012. As soon as I became PMP, and I was based in Penang, I didn't share that piece of information earlier with the larger audience. I'm based in Penang, I'm not based in Kuala Lumpur.
Okay.
I realized, and I had done this through Dell. Dell had been the sponsor of my PMP studies. And they had done this as a program for 30 of us. So I stepped back as soon as I certified, and I said, if there's 30 of us in Dell, there must easily be another 30 PMPs in the Penang area. I was not thinking much further afield. And I said, that's critical mass, okay? Those of us who are PMP or even certified for that matter, know that we have to earn PDUs, professional development units, or CPDs or CPEs if you're an engineer or something like that. And in every 3-year cycle, we renew our PMP certificate through these things called PDUs. And I was thinking that we have a local chapter at that point in time. I was thinking chapter or branch. We would be able to organize our own events and accumulate the PDUs accordingly for the local community. And in the early days, the chapter was very much focused on the Klang Valley, because the board members were all in the Klang Valley. And for what it's worth, I was the first volunteer, if I can call it that, who came from outside of the Klang Valley. Today, I know the board has at least 2 people who are outside of the Klang Valley. So not only did I set the tone all those many years ago, it's led on to more people from outside being involved. It's helped. The pandemic has had some positive outcomes because we've had to embrace virtual. And by virtue of embracing virtual, we've been able to reach out to the people who would otherwise have been completely neglected in the what I call the remote areas, in the Penangs, in the Johors, in the Kuantans, in the Sabahs, in the Sarawaks. They would have all been neglected. But now we can actually bring them in and get them involved. So we found new ways of working to deliver on the chapter to begin with, the volunteering on the other hand. So the universities are no different. Now the universities are more interesting because you have 10,000 students. I don't know what the student population at UKM is. I know it's spread out because you got multiple campuses, but you got thousands of students, and theoretically every student should have this project management education in inverted commas. So to bring them into the societies to begin with and to expose them to what it's about. I mean, Dr. Abang Anwar rightly pointed out, he said, listen, these people didn't know anything. I mean, I was surprised that common sense didn't come out of his research. It may have, maybe it's right at the bottom of the list. But even more important, planning did not come out of the research either, or at least not in the top 5. And those of you who have done proper project management study know that planning and communication are the most important things to be effective project managers. So coming back to forming a branch, I believe it's viable. In fact, we did this with Nottingham University. So Nottingham is just down the road from UKM in Seminye. And they created a society. So we were going there. The chapter was going there. We were speakers at the student association events, initially in an informal manner. And then the students on their own said we will set up an association. And there's collaboration between the two. And the students, by virtue of being chapter members, can actually attend the chapter events as well. And ideally, those should be free. Under the current circumstances, our events are all virtual, so they are free. But there should be special dispensation for students. And there's yet another twist to all of this as well. You can actually use the student body, those student members, to be our volunteers as well. So when we run events like the symposium, for example, in the past, we outsourced. But today, I think there's an appetite, there's a ready appetite to actually insource. So when you have ushers and those sorts of things, people taking registration and whatever else it is, in the past, it might have been the members. But today, we could actually bring the students in and they could actually have first-hand experience of volunteering and learning some other skills through the volunteering activity. So it's very, very positive. It's very, very powerful.
Okay, thank you very much, Krishnan. Now, since our Dr. Abang is already appointed as the Trojan horse. So what is your opinion about the initiative, about the maybe ideas or changes in the university based on your research? Any initiative or changes that you would like to see in our university, particularly in UKM? Okay.
Okay. Initiative is very important, I think. To me, if you want to start, then we have to create some kind of urgency, some kind of that this is important. To say to the academics, to our lecturer that project management skill is important, not just to the students, but to the academic themselves. Because both of them are actually managing projects. Students, they have their own projects, their assignments, as Mr. Krishnan said. But academics are the leaders. They are the project leaders. They bring values to the organization. So if you plan to bring values to the organization, you must have that skill, that knowledge. Okay, one of the important skills for me is project management, as Mr. Krishnan said. So we need some kind of initiative. So the first thing is to create some kind of urgency to say that we need this. Okay, so one of the initiative that I have done is basically to do the study. I did the study last year. Okay, and I presented the data to our RMC to CRIM, and Alhamdulillah, they actually saw the data and they agree that we need some kind of changes to how can we make a project management available to all academics, basically. Okay, probably through the PMI-MY if we can organize some function from PMI-MY, or even in UKM also, we can also provide some internal webinar courses. Okay, so we need to create that urgency. Okay, secondly, probably is to conduct short courses. Okay, like webinar like this, even like short webinar like this, we can also conduct to expose our academics to project management. Let them know that they can manage their project better. Okay, because they have there actually was a study done by PMI long time ago that said that the key to managing project is knowing the standard of project management. They have the study done long time ago in 2008, if I'm not mistaken. So basically, we can conduct courses to expose our academics to this project management skill. Either you want to conduct it for the student also. We can actually provide courses like Chitra courses. Actually, I have one Chitra courses, and Dr. Kim also has one Chitra courses actually on project management. This is how we contribute in terms of making known project management to students. For the academics themselves, we can actually have professional courses. Okay, actually, I talked to Professional UKM recently. I have a meeting with them, and I proposed that Professional UKM should have project management courses in UKM we can do it regularly. Okay, we can have maybe 20 participants, okay, in one courses, just to expose our academics, our lecturer, in terms of how to manage their project using a best practice in project management. Okay, I think those are the things that we can do lah initially. Beside having the student society, we can have that courses. Even we can have we can write books. I actually have written one book, but it's not published yet, on project management. It's project management for academics actually. Okay.
Book for the training.
Yeah, it's actually pengurusan. The name of the book is Pengurusan Project bagi Project Penyelidikan University. Actually, the title. Because I thought university academics should have some kind of reference, some kind of guidelines, how to manage their project. So I create that initiative. It's still under review, and hopefully it will be published by early next year, I hope. So those are the initiatives that I'm doing. Hopefully we can make some changes in UKM, starting with UKM, and also we can expand to other universities also. I think that's all on that part. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Dr. Abang. Now to Dr. Siao. Based on whatever we have discussed with Dr. Abang, initiative and changes, what do you think about maybe we start off a certification, starting with CAPM and later with PMP or any others, maybe for our professionals or our academics or our students? So what do you think about that, the certifications, Dr. Siao?
I think it's good to have it, but it's not a prerequisite. I mean, it's yeah. I think the important thing is the principle that there is. Otherwise, we get too attached to all these certifications. I mean, but for the students, it's good. I mean, they're going out to work and they need to compete with other people. But I think for the academics in the universities, it's not that it's not really that important. But as long as we are aware of it, that we are practicing it, I think that is more important instead of having all these certifications. And that's my personal opinion. I mean, but for the students, it's definitely a plus point. See, when the students go out from UKM, from other things, people will. I mean, it's the employers' market, right? I mean, there are so many new employees, and especially in some companies, which is they work on very projectized way. I mean, every single time your audit firm, you charge into somebody, and some consultancy firm and engineering firms, they all work based on projects, right? So and if you have those kinds of skills to demonstrate to, and on top of it you have someone else to certify that, I think you put the very good position for the students to shine itself and to distinguish themselves in front of the recruiter. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Siao. Okay, final questions to our Mr. Krishnan. Maybe we are talking about creation or establishment of project management program. How actually we would like to move forward? You mentioned maybe about the awareness, creation of awareness to get executive sponsorships. So what's your opinion on that? Okay, please.
So when I say create awareness, I'm very clearly from Dr. Abang Anwar's research, just within academia, never mind the student body. Okay, we don't expect the student body to be aware, but just within academia, there's a lack of awareness that there is this thing called project management, and there's a lack of awareness of its applicability to them. Okay, and clearly most of the academics are doing some sort of research or other. Okay, so that's the first thing. So how do you get this message across? Now, if you just left it on its own, nothing will happen. So Dr. Abang Anwar's comment about you need to create this urgency. Now, how do you create this urgency? Okay, now I create that urgency by talking about 30% better. Okay, a GPA of 3 versus 3.9, but I can't use that for the academics, right? Because they're not being judged by GPAs. Okay, maybe if we said, how would you like 30% more of your students to pass compared to not pass? That might be a KPI, for example. But in order to get that as a recognized KPI, guess what? Your chancellors, your vice chancellors, and department heads, deans, and so forth, need to be working with those sorts of things. So if they're not working with those sorts of things, you're going to have a problem. And the way to address this is to get executive sponsorship. So to get executive sponsorship, it's all about managing your stakeholders. Who are your stakeholders? What's in it for me is often the question that comes up. So I use the students' membership as an example. Now, if I become a member of PMI, what's in it for me? Well, we get free membership to PMI Malaysia chapter, for example. It's zero cost. You get some opportunity to attend some events as a student member. You get a chance to come and volunteer and learn some other skills that you might not have ordinarily had. Now, in academia, we need to do the same thing. So if you get CAPM, for example, will you get a pay rise? This language may not appeal much to your decision makers, but maybe to academia, if they got an additional certification, another feather in their cap, they might be willing to jump for it. And just talking about feathers in the cap and pay rises, it is a universal fact that as soon as you get your PMP, your market value goes up by a minimum of 20%.
Wow.
So if you are earning 5,000 ringgit today, your value is suddenly 6,000 ringgit. Okay, I'm just using 5,000 as a number. There's a reason why I use 5,000. The number might vary, but 20% is a big number. If people were to go outside and look for alternative employment, for example. And I've actually come across people who have actually enjoyed as much as 40 and 50% increments as a result of changing jobs. So that's the value of PMP. If I talk about CAPM in the student fraternity, probably there's a small premium. If your peer group is offered, let's just say $2,000, you might be offered $2,100, for example, just as a starting salary, just to give some idea as to what's in it for me. And this is a certificate. Certainly, the PMI set of certifications is recognized worldwide, more than 200 countries. Just using PMP as an example, there's more than 1.1 million certificate holders worldwide. And this is no longer something that's just been hashed up in the last 5 years. It's PMI is more than 50 years. PMI Malaysia chapter is more than 25 years in existence. So there's a lot of work for us to do in terms of creating that awareness. And I personally have a vision that I'm chasing after, and that is that we will have another 40,000 PMPs in our country, and that to help to nation build. And there is a desperate need for us to nation build.
40,000, yeah?
40,000. Today there's about 4,400 PMPs. I believe there's capacity in our country for another 40,000 PMPs. So I can go into the maths another time, but I use Canada as a reference point. They've got some 54,000 PMPs in Canada. Canada is roughly the same size population-wise to Malaysia. So that gives you some idea. 54 versus 4, we have got capacity for 40,000.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Krishnan, Dr. Abang Anwar, and Dr. Kim. Okay, time is already almost 1 hour. Just imagine within 1 hour, we already elaborate about the project management, how we would like to set up in UKM, for example, for our students' associations. Thanks a lot for the audience, in which I saw our Dr. Rosil Rajikan, Dr. Saiful Yusof from UKM Pakarunding, Fatin, my project and change management student at master's level. They have had their examination yesterday. I think still burning up the ideas and everything. Thanks a lot for attending. Then I do hope that we can initiate based on maybe the audience as well as you as the catalyst in UKM, Dr. Abang and Dr. Kim. Let's start something that we are not only talking here in this webinar, but we do materialize something in UKM as one of the research university, as the national university Watan kita in Malaysia, that we can do that. As well, we collaborate with other universities. We start here, kick off the project tonight, and then we shall see how we move forward. For those at the audience out there, you can contact me. Okay, you have my email, you have my phone number. Then let's how we can work together. We can synergy, we can collaborate. Not only to have this project management in the university. Of course, 3 of us is actually academics. Yet how we can what we call it give the credits or credentials to our students. By having like 20% or maybe a few percent, that good for them. Yeah, I think that's all. Again, thank you very much for your times for this wonderful interactive session. Till we meet again next time next week. Stay safe, and that's all. I'm going to have a recorded sessions for this, and I'll put up on the YouTube. And for our audience as well, don't forget, should you have any ideas to be part of this program or whatsoever members of chapter, do let us know. Okay, till then, thank you very much and have a very pleasant evening. Okay, bye-bye and okay, bye.
Okay, thank you very much, Noizam.
Thank you very much,
Mr. President.